I was a program manager at DARPA for 6 years and led the efforts for the DARPA programs for Somalia, Haiti, Bosnia, Croatia, Macedonia. Got 18 months hostile fire pay when I was at DARPA. And then from there, asked by the Deputy CG of AMC to set up the Army Quick Response Office. So we set up the Army Quick Response Office because the Army was moving into Bosnia, and Kocher Towers happened, and we were asked to lead the DoD efforts for Kocher Towers. I'll go into a lot of this required a lot of innovation, relatively quick. We'll talk about that. And then when I retired, I founded Ideal Innovations, and been with Ideal Innovations for 17 years. Also, side note, when the REF was first starting up, I was there for about 4 years, helping them initially get together. Okay, so first thing, innovation and invention. They're obviously two different things. Okay, innovation is doing something different, a better idea. An invention is normally a product or something like that. To get innovation, to make innovation or inventions work, you need three components. This is kind of the art. You need a senior visionary. You need that's somebody, sometimes they call the champion or whatever, but somebody that has resources, someone that recognizes the idea, and someone says, I'm going to support this. You need, of course, the inventor. And the inventor is the person that comes up with the idea, but the inventor has to be an informed inventor, and I'll talk more about that. Then the third person you need, or the third organization person, is you need the expert PM or the subject matter expert on the technology. And the subject matter expert on the technology is primarily can tell you if it's going to work or not, the difficulties, what has to be solved. And on the program management side of that, of the expert, is how long does it take, how do they contract, how do they pull all that stuff together. If you don't have these three components, it's probably not going to go anywhere. A lot of great ideas out there, but if you don't have somebody supporting it, you can't have somebody managing it, pulling it together, it's not going to go anywhere. It's going to sit on the shelf. An additional component, which we did with the Quick Response Office, was trying to get ahead of the power curve by one way of accelerating innovation or invention is trying to anticipate what the needs are going to be. A lot of times you see DoD will respond to something. Oh, we just had this. Quick, we got to do something. Oh, we just had this. We got to do something. What we tried to do at the Quick Response Office, we met with SYNC representatives in the Intel community, and we said, what's going to happen in the next 12 months? Which they kind of looked at us and thought that was kind of crazy to ask that question. We said, look, if you can tell us the top 10 things that you think is going to happen in the next 12 months, we can start putting plans together that should one of those events happen, we'll know who to go to right away. We'll have be able to do a letter contract, get things started, and deliver quickly. Now, the Quick Response Office, let me backtrack a little bit. Quick Response Office was set up at AMC headquarters. Army Material Command, a major headquarters, 4-star general commands it, and they have their own contracting authority. They oversee the labs, our ECOM. They have tremendous resources, all run out of their headquarters, basically. So the idea there is a Quick Response Office reported directly to a major general, and anything that was needed, AMC, the 2-star would call the 2-star and say, hey, what can you do here? The other philosophy we used was to farm out as much work as we could, so we didn't have to grow large. The Quick Response Office never got above 10 people. And the philosophy behind that was, if you're 10 people, you can work faster. You're not worried about internal problems. If you have 100 people, and if you're a director of 100 people, you probably spend a lot of times training, personnel issues, things like that. It pulls you a little bit away from the missions. And I think you see a lot of organizations within DoD, they try to stay at around 10 people. So if you want to be quick, that's another thing. But we could handle a lot of issues coming in from sinks because we look at it and we say, who should do this? What can be done? And then we quickly get that out to the people that could do it. They'd come back, and then we would provide funding, resourcing, and do a lot of downrange work. Okay, so that's kind of in trying to get ahead of the power curve, is trying to anticipate what's going to happen. And I'll talk about the phases of the Army Quick Response Office when it first started, based on urgent needs and requirements, to 4 directors later when the requirements were down and the mission changed, and how we changed that mission. Okay, going back in the triad, the senior visionary, the champion. On the lower end, you have the informed inventor. Okay, we're in Somalia. We were arming at DARPA. We were arming Humvees because the Army. We talked to the PEO on that, and the PEO said, I cannot armor Humvees because I do not have a mission needs statement, operational requirement document. I can legally not armor or modify a Humvee. And oh, by the way, the Humvee wasn't designed to be armored. I said, I got it, but in Somalia, we just lost a guy running over ordnance, and SOCOM is asking to armor Humvees. We think this is important. We do something quick. So they gave us kind of the dimensions, everything in the Humvee, and we put together quickly a program that we would deliver in about 60 days. We delivered the first 4. They would be installed on the ground. We'd have people on the ground that within 3 days would wire back, call back on these are the changes, and then 30 days later, the next 4 showed up, next 4 showed up, next 4 showed up. We had 16 Humvees in armored Humvees modified when Black Hawk Down occurred. But part of that process, we were driving through Mogadishu, and the squad leader would tell us, look, when we're shot at, we don't even know. We if the bullet hits the windshield, we know. The bullet hits the gunner on the top, we know. But otherwise, we go through, we don't even know we're being shot at. If we know we're being shot at, we can take maneuvers. So we came back to DARPA and said the Navy Undersea Office, the Maritime Office, they were the experts in acoustics. And we went to them and said, can you sort out sound from around a Humvee and stuff like this and pick up where a shot has come from? All they want to know is they're being shot at. They don't even, that was a basic thing. So they jumped on the challenge. There were 7 companies involved, but they had to understand the problem. So let's go back to the informed inventor. So we worked out a deal with ARL. They set up a range. We went up to Aberdeen. We took the contractors downrange. We set up their sensors downrange. They were downrange, and shots were fired over their head, to the right, to the left. Kind of very interesting. If you've never been downrange shot at, if you're an inventor, you need to understand that when the bullet passes to your right, you swear that's where the shot came from, because that's how you hear. And there are different things they looked at. Could we detect the original shot? What about the supersonic bullet coming by, or different things like that? So years of work it took for solutions eventually to be put together where there could be a shot detection system, which came out later, obviously in 2003, the Boomerang. But it was the companies that started that figured it out because they were informed inventors. But in Somalia, we told the commander, look, we're not going to have anything quick for you. It's going to be an enduring problem. We'll work on it. And somebody came up with an idea, gee, why don't we build a road that goes outside of Mogadishu so we don't have to drive through Mogadishu and get hammered all the time. They built the road. That was great. Quickly put up a road. It wasn't hard. Embassy complex down to the port. And that seemed to work. Then the commander, again, looking at problems, what they needed. Another one, the informed inventor, is stories about teaching the technology people the environment. what they ask is, they said, look, now we got this nice road that goes around, and we're the only ones that use it, but we're afraid guys are going to come out and put mines in it. They weren't called the IEDs, they were mines. Okay. So we quickly got with the experts, night vision lab, in the anti-mine work, and also, the night vision lab with the IR detection. We thought if they put something in the road, we could see it with an IR camera. So we quickly took the personnel over from night vision lab, went out on the road, and we had to simulate the true environment. So we had real mines without the detonators, and we're digging them in the roads, and things are going good until this Cobra comes by and then stops and circles. And but fortunately, he called back to his headquarters and said, hey, we have some people putting mines in the road. I said, yes, those are the guys from DARPA. It's fine, whatever. Could have been bad, but it was good. And then we did some IR work and stuff like that. But again, it took the inventors, the informed inventors, downrange. It had to be in that. We tried to. We originally discussed about doing it at Belvoir, but they said you won't get the soil conditions, you won't get the temperatures. You have to do it downrange. And they did develop the initial IR detection, which years later started this concept of the change detection, of picking up changes when people put IDs in the road. So that's the informed inventor. So you have the program manager and the technology expert over on the other side of the triangle. You got the champion or visionary. You have the informed inventor that comes up with different ideas, and then you have the program manager / technology SME. This group here is very important because when an idea comes up, the technology folks need to say, can it be done? Can it be done? I mean, you see a lot of stuff in body armor. You always talk about lighter body armor. Okay, we did the programs at body armor at DARPA, and the current body armor is really fantastic in terms of what it can actually do at the weight. If you take around 6 pounds a square foot, current body armor, a little bit less than that, that equates to about 15 grams a square inch. So 15 grams, if you take a large paper clip, that's 1 gram. So it's 15 paper clips, stops an armor-piercing round that will penetrate about 3/4 of an inch of steel. So when people say, hey, I can make it lighter, how many paper clips are you going to take out? You know, you need to have the technology experts to say, look, we're up against a couple laws of physics here. It's probably not going to work. And there's a lot of new ideas that are up against different laws of physics in different areas. And one thing we did at DARPA when it was a conventional survivability and other stuff I did there, we'd always get these calls in, hey, I got this idea, I have this, hey, we shot this armor, it's good, et cetera, et cetera. And they come in and try to prove it on paper and try to do this, or bring in look, we shot this, and look, it stopped, and whatever. And it just got to be too theoretical, just too crazy. So we funded ARL to shoot military standard armor-piercing bullets at any target we set up there. So when somebody would call and say, hey, I got this new idea, we'd say, fine, we're going to shoot first and ask questions later. For free, you get to send your stuff to Aberdeen. You shot it, right? Yes, I shot it. It's produced, it works, yes. Send it up to Aberdeen, we'll shoot it. Once it's shot, bring it on down, we'll give you the test results, and let's talk about your concept. And most of the time, the discussion turned into a discussion about what real state of art is, you know. So in a constrained environment, money right now, you got to be careful what you're investing in. I mean, there are different things that people claim work in a lab, and it does, but now you get out in the sunlight, and hey, maybe it doesn't work, or maybe you get into different environments or something like that. So you need these technology guys to evaluate what happens. Also, you need the program manager over here to say, yeah, That will take about 6 months to develop because the inventor might not know how long it takes to develop in the Army acquisition system. So that three triad. So if you have a good idea, you need to identify who's going to be the champion of this. And let me define. The champion is somebody that has money or resources to put against it. Okay? A soldier in the field that wants it, he would write all letters, whatever, but that's not the right champion you want. You want somebody high up in the organization that has R&D money that can influence something. And they come in with that idea, but that leader has to look to his technology folks. Is this real or is it not? And numerous examples on that where different things happen. Bill, are we running out of time or? Okay. Go through another example. Real life example with the ref. Okay. We were in Iraq, went to Iraq, Afghanistan 25 times. And one of the generals there said, look, I really need to have a DNA capability over here. I'm trying to catch these. This general had a particular mission of about 14 people. That was his job, to get these 14 people. And they'd get relatives and stuff. No, I'm not the relative and stuff. So he needed a DNA capability. So took it back, briefed it to people that have resources. This was the ref and some other folks, and said, look, they want this DNA capability. We don't know if it can be done, but they definitely need it. And there was another, also the Biometrics Management Office also got involved. So we got a contract to quickly see if we can put a DNA lab downrange. We got with some top-end folks. We put it together. We're 2 months into the contract, and then we get a stop work order saying that CENTCOM has proof that you can't put a DNA lab downrange. And so it's stop work. So I go back in and say, look, I don't know if it can be done, but I would like to see the proof why it can't be done. 2 months later, they said, okay, continue. Bottom line of the story, about 6 months after that, we fielded it. And right now, there are a bunch of DNA labs downrange right now. I think there's 5 or 6 at one time. And there are people still over there right now, DNA labs, which turned out to be a great asset. Same thing when JIDO was first starting. JIDO first started, kind of spun out of the ref a little bit. Colonel Votel was working with Colonel Jetty, and they put together, we need to do something with IEDs, so they talked about setting up this organization. And once it was set up, Colonel Votel became General Votel, and we had a meeting, and the problem there was IED would go off, the U.S. would roll up the people around the IED and fingerprint them, hold them for 3 days. They could only hold them for 3 days, and they had to release them. If you couldn't charge somebody, you had to release them in 3 days. But what the U.S. was doing, they would take all the evidence around there, pack it up, ship it to Virginia to the FBI lab, and the processing time was almost 8 months. It got up to 8 months, and General Votel said, "Hey, we can't do this. We gotta. This is not working out because they catch the prints. Oh, we had the guy, but we let him go." So we said, "Look, let's try putting a team in, co-locate with Sexy, where they did take the forensics evidence off of the bombs, and see if we could process them overnight on site." Look, it was good. The FBI disagreed, and so the CID, and they said, look, they tried it in Vietnam. You lose too much evidence if you don't do it in the professional lab, CONUS. Motel said there was really no choice. We got to try it. We went over there. We sent a team of 5 latent print examiners, and sure enough, they processed them. They got matches. They detained people because of that. And next thing you know, there are about 80 people doing forensics in Iraq and Afghanistan coming off the IDs, which is very instrumental in terms of catching people. Because if you can process it there, you've arrested the people that are around the site, you can sort out who's who, which turned out to be pretty good. So in those innovation cases, The visionary was General Votel. The invention was some of the latent print examiners that were willing to go down range, more or less. And the technology assessment was kind of weak, or discussion of could it be done or could it not be done. But we were fairly confident it could be done, and along that line. So the art of innovation, kind of sum it up that way, it's the three elements. So if you have a good idea and you go to the government, if you're not talking to somebody that has money, a little tough, and the guy that has the money should consult with technology experts to see, does this really happen? And if you're the inventor, you really need to be informed in the environment. Thank you.
Do you have a few moments for questions?
Sure. Oh, yeah.
So the mic is open for questions. So Bob presented four vignettes. So is there any place where this is cataloged someplace where someone can take advantage of your experiences, both from a government standpoint, military, and then later on as a CEO of a company, where people can, or do we call you every day and say, hey, Bob, tell me that story again?
No, a lot of these were done in the ref. There were other vignettes, too, from EFP armor to the DNA lab was worked very closely with Colonel Tubbs. Some of the initial the cards identity management stuff was done by Colonel Jetty.
But is it cataloged anywhere where anyone here on the street can say, hey, I'm looking for innovation examples, and I pull up...
It should be in success stories of the ref. They should have a list of all the stuff the ref has done. I mean, have they done that? Have they cataloged that?
Well, maybe we should start doing that. All the former ref guys that have success stories ought to start putting those stories together.
I think it's important. Some of the stuff, the Somalia stuff, I talked with the new deputy AMC CG. A lot of people are not aware of what different organizations did in the past. There's a lot of institutional knowledge kind of lost when people leave, and I don't know. I mean, I don't have a list of stuff we've done, but I could talk for a long time about it. So could you, Bill. You guys, the ref there's a lot of good stories. Sure, please.
Hey, Mr. Kocher, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
My name is Brent Daly. I'm a colonel, and I work on the Army Chiefs Strategic Studies Group, leading a concept team on the rapid delivery of innovative solutions.
Okay.
So I'm going to kind of throw a two-part question at you. I know you're going to kind of field this one cold, but
okay.
You talked a lot about the need for leadership and inspired leadership to help be the champion for innovation in organizations. And mine obviously is focused on the Army. But with that said, do you think that the Army needs to have a chief innovation officer today that serves as that champion so that it could help to bridge that gap or pull those capabilities forward when we're trying to go fast and try to be able to marry up a capability to resources? And kind of the question behind that is, do you believe that there's a leadership gap in the Army today as it relates to innovation? And if so, what are the things that we could do to help close that gap?
Excellent questions. I really appreciate that. I was at the trainer conference in January. We had a lot of discussions, and also had the privilege of being on a panel with General Perkins earlier today. Okay, so let me go into a little controversial thoughts. Okay, so Myers-Briggs, in our briefing on innovation, Myers-Briggs talks about different personality types. You got to recognize that different people are different. Inventors are different people. Okay, they tend not to like to follow the rules. Okay, so your inventors are normally not your generals, because you got to follow the rules to make it up to be general. Let me use an example. I don't think a chief innovations officer, because remember, innovation is not necessarily a product. Innovation is a new way to do it. Hey, let me make a road outside of Mogadishu That was a great innovation, versus, hey, let me armor up the vehicle. But I contend what the Army needs to do is look at who's good at anticipating what's going to happen. I was told it takes 26 years to grow somebody in the Army to be a division commander. And the people they're looking for, this is years ago, are people that can anticipate what the enemy's going to do. I see the enemy massing here. I see this. I think this is what's going to happen. This is what we need to do. That was a characteristic that they wanted from the division commanders. I think in anticipating what the enemy's going to do, the threats today, you need to identify those folks. But I don't think they're not division commanders. We have a term we call mystics. Okay, so something. Do I have time? If I got time, okay. Something we do at a company there is we get a lot of our key people in, and we get 50% of people in from another company and other organizations, lawyers, different things. And they have a series of questions they have to go through. What is going to happen in the next 12 months? And how many soldiers will be in Iraq? How many will be here? How many will be here? What will happen? What will happen? Who will win the Super Bowl? We got some basic questions. What will the price of gas be, and some other things? And we videotape it. Okay. So the person's videotaped. We've been doing this for about 4 years, then 5 years. Then the next year that comes back, and we play it and we score. Oh, that was right. The guy was right. It was wrong, whatever, something like this. And what we find, certain people are very good at understanding the environment and predicting what's going to happen. So this is like Warren Buffett. Okay, Warren Buffett got to where he was by looking, seeing, understanding companies, and said, this is where I should put my money. Okay, so I don't know if you call it the chief technology officer, innovation officer, or whatever, but in the Army, somebody has to have a history. Another controversial thing, 2025. That's easy. I'll tell you what happens in 2025 because I'm not going to be around. Okay, somebody just look at the study, what was written in 2000, what is needed for the year 2015. See how accurate that was. Okay, you didn't have 9/11, you didn't have a bunch of stuff. Okay, so, but there are certain people that are good at predicting what's going to happen, and it's the understanding of the enemy, it's the understanding of the environment. And we've had one of our panels, a retired lieutenant general. It normally wins the thing. The guy is very good, and that's what's kind of needed in the Army, are to identify people that are good at anticipating at what's going to happen in the next 12 months. And what you do is you take those people that are good at predicting what's going to happen in the next 12 months, 24 months, and then you have those people write what's going to happen in the next 5 years, 10 years. Okay, just like Warren Buffett. If somebody's consistently right in the near term, will probably be right in the far term. You can't assign, hey, I need somebody to go on, hey, you need to go work here or go work here. It doesn't work. And I think the senior visionary, like Warren Buffett, needs to say where he wants to put his money. You get a lot of good ideas in. That idea may work, everything, but it's really not going to get a return on the investment. So he needs to know how much money he has to invest, and he needs to select, this is where we should invest, this is where we should invest. After listening to the inventions, after listening to the program managers and technology guys, is this even going to work? And listening to the group of mystics, or the near term or your sinks, what's going to happen, Mr. Sink, on your next 12 months, on your term, where you're here, what are your large concerns? He can see what the needs are. He can see what the new ideas are. He can see what the technology evaluations, programmatic issues are. And he has the resources to say, okay, here's where I'm going to put my money, and I'm going to be like Warren Buffett.